I want to tie up a couple loose ends from the first grip video that I did. I shared with you a couple of grip strategies, the full hand grip and then this grip to where you can accelerate the tip through the cue ball for medium and hard shots. I just don't want to leave you with a restricted idea that you can only use this for finesse and stun, and you can only use this for medium and hard. You can use this for soft as well, and you can also use this for medium and hard shots. You'll have to lengthen your stroke out a little bit, but the point being is that true knowledge comes from experience. Take these two grips to the table and work with them and see what happens for you in your game. You're not restricted as to how you can apply those gripping strategies. A few years back, and what got me thinking about this was how similar what I told you in the first video and what I just shared parallels in this book that I'm going to share with you. A few years ago, I don't know, 6 or 8 years ago, time flies, I was at a pool tournament and Truman Hogue was there, and we were talking about instructional practices and a little give and take there on what he does and what I do. And I said, come out to the car with me. I just happened to have an instructional manual of mine in the car, so we went out to the car and we were just sitting in the front seat talking, and I pulled out my manual, which would look something like this with maybe 100+ pages in it. I'd done several manuals, so I'd gotten pretty handy with doing manuals. So Truman looked through one of my manuals and he said, boy, I would like to have one of those, that's nice. And I told him, I said, I'll help you put one together if you'd like for me to. I've done several of them, so it'd be no big deal to me. I'd be happy to help you out. So he said, what do I need to do? And I said, I want you to come up with 30 shots. 30 shots that you would use during an instructional session with one of your students that you're teaching bank to. So it wasn't but a matter of a couple of weeks. He had made his way to my home here in Greensburg, and he brought along his knowledge and 30 different shots that he wanted me to put into manual form for him. So he shot those shots, I shot those shots, we discussed the shots, the speed and the spin and the stroke involved and such, so all that made its way to this manual. So after he left that day, I spent about 100 hours in putting this manual together for Truman, and all the shots are diagrammed and described, and he would teach this course, and probably still does to some degree, at the bank shot in Louisville, Kentucky. Part of the agreement with me doing this book or manual would be that I could teach it as well. But the name of the book is Kentucky Banks by Hall of Famer Truman Hogue with Stan Shuffett. So within the context of this book and within the framework of Truman's lesson, he teaches 2 grips, 2 strokes. He teaches a punch stroke, and then he teaches a 9-ball stroke. Does that sound familiar? I got to thinking, well, I need to go ahead and share this because it's pertinent. Here we have one of the greatest bank players to ever play the game that has 2 major strokes that he takes to the game, whether it's 9-ball or whether it's bank. But he was a bank specialist, world champion at one time, but 70% of the shots that he would execute at the table were punch shots, jabs. The other 30% were shots to where he would, and I'm quoting Truman, force the tip through the position of the cue ball. So he would describe his other shots as a stroke that was more flowing, one that would force the tip through the cue ball. Well, that really helped me out at the time because it helped me to categorize my shots as either a punch shot or a 9-ball shot. I liked that, and I still like it today. So when I'm at the table, I'm either using this grip or power, I'm using this grip. So a lot of the shots that I shoot, I could easily classify them as punch shots or 9-ball shots. So something else that was unique to Truman's instruction is that he would teach to those players that would come to him for bank instruction that when you put spin on the ball, if you want right spin, you twist your wrist to the right. If you want left spin, you twist it to the left. Now that's not easy to do. It has to be learned, and there's a lot of timing involved. It's just a form of backhand English. You can do the same thing by setting your tip right or left, so you don't have to do that. But Truman's very adamant about the effectiveness and the results that you get from doing that. I'm not going to argue with him at all on that, because I've taken this information to the table, and it's very, very strong. So Truman, this is just set up as like a dead bank. Once again, we're just looking at a punch shot. But if you're going to play the game of bank, you're not playing 9-ball when you're playing bank. You're punching balls. You want to keep your stroke more compact. Punch, punch, punch. You don't want a lot of cue ball movement. You know, Truman would want to get the cue ball, you know, in a group of object balls and just punch, 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 punch. And then he might have to resort to a 9-ball stroke to get the cue ball around the table to get into another, as he would refer to, another patch of balls. You know, he said, "You get me into the patch, and I'm real strong," he would say. So some shots are just naturally 9-ball shots, and some shots, many shots, are just naturally punch shots. So I'm just going to shoot like 3 or 4 shots, and that's it. So this is a punch shot. And then this shot here has an angle of where I have to hold the ball. So I'm going to punch it, but I'm going to twist my wrist right to put right spin on it. So bear with me. That may take me a couple times to make this shot because I'm talking and such, but I'm just so you see that cue ball didn't move a lot. So maybe if there were another ball right here, I've got another bank. And then, let's say you've got a bank like this. Let's say you have a bank like this, and I need to get back down toward this end of the table because there's balls down here. Well, he might regard this shot and shoot it as a 9-ball shot. So I pre-cock my wrist on this shot. Oops. I'll bet I can't do that again. So that's a 9-ball shot. This would be a 9-ball shot. See, I drew that ball into the rail. Maybe I'm trying to land up on the rail up here to get a back under bank. But anyway, I thought that I needed to go ahead and cut you loose a little bit on these 2 grips so that you're not, I don't want you to have the mindset to where you're locked in on, got to use this just for this and use this just for this. But I thought as I was giving you that little bit of information, it was a natural lead-in to what one of the greatest bank players in the world does as far as his grip strategies. He's got that punch shot, and then he's got what he calls the 9-ball stroke. So I just thought I would share that with you. You're going to play a little bit of bank, learn to punch the ball. You're not playing 9-ball when you're playing bank, so your stroke is going to be more compact. You know, when you're playing bank, the angle is very important, but the aspect of speed and spin is amplified when you're banking, because you're hitting a rail before you go into a pocket. So when you're just doing direct pocketing, your speed and your spin can have a lot of variation to it. But when you're banking, you know, there's usually one good speed for making a ball. I mean, for optimizing that ball and its entry into the pocket. So bank players like firm speeds. That punch offers a firm speed, and yes, that cue ball was going off the table on those 2 punch shots that I shot. The 9-ball shots as well. That ball's going off of the table a little bit. So I just think it's a mistake to think you're going to present yourself at the table to where your cue's level in such a way as if you're trying to leave the cue ball on the surface of the table. One of these days I'll put together a lesson concerning some different angles that you can create by the cue ball exiting the table. I don't want to keep the cue ball on the table all the time, but I'm not going to venture into that topic just yet. Perhaps one day when I have a professional player here, we'll do a dual lesson on that. I have one in mind right now that would fit that purpose. So I'm saying that's a possibility. But I just wanted to do a little bit of a close to that first lesson on grip, because I felt like I left some things a little bit open there. So anyway, thank you for your time.